Hi, this is Summer with Summer's Tips and Stitches, and do I have a treat for you? My sister got up the courage and made a video for me to feature on my YouTube channel that will take you step by step on how to crochet a rosary. What I have showing here, hopefully in a box somewhere that my husband has put up here for you, are a few of the finished rosaries that she has already crocheted, some of the different color combos between threads and beads. She has learned this basically on her own. She did know how to do a little crochet, which I think she'll mention in the video. I taught her how to do a double crochet once, and she's made a couple blankets, and then I walked her through, it was crazy, on the phone, how to crochet a poncho. You know that green poncho I made for Flynn a while ago? She made one for her daughter. So she has minimal crochet skills, and so I'm very proud of her that she's been making these. Also, I've created an email account for her so that you folks, after watching this, if you're interested in contacting her to give her tips, if you also make rosaries and would like to share with her some of the techniques you have, or if you have any questions, if you want to explain, or if you would like a rosary yourself, you will be able to email her at rosarymaker2010@hotmail.com. So with no further ado, here is my wonderful sister sharing with you her ministry of praying and making rosaries. Hope you enjoy. Bye.
Okay, you guys, I have recorded this a lot of times, and I am feeling a little overwhelmed with this. So, I'm trying because I love my sister very, very much, and she knows how much I love her for the fact that I'm doing this, because I've even been off Facebook for a year. I don't know what this Shutterfly or Instagram or Twitter's all about, and YouTube. I do watch YouTube videos, but anyways, so we're making a rosary. You guys wanted a little tutorial on how I do it, so I'm very sorry. I am a self-taught everything. By self-taught, really, my sister helps me. Summer's Tips and Stitches. But this is the type of rosary I have been making. It is beaded with crochet thread. It's crocheted with beads. Actually, not beaded with crochet thread. Okay, so I use crochet thread. I took the wrapper off because I take it off right away, and my kids take them off and tear it up in little pieces and leave it all over the floor if I don't take them off right away. So I can't tell you what size this is. Maybe my sister can help you out with this, but this is just regular crochet thread. A needle, beads. You'll need 53 of whatever you use for your Hail Marys, and 6 Our Fathers, a Blessed Mother pendant, and a crucifix, though I've seen them a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different options. Instead of Blessed Mother, you could put like St. Rose of Lima, St. Padre Pio, he's a good one. Whatever different saints, or whatever the hell you guys want, okay? So we're just going to get started. So I start beading the tail. I bead all the way up and around, and you string all of your beads on one string. You put them all on before you even touch your crochet needle. So I'm going to start that now, and then likely I'm going to pause the video. So I'm going to start with an Our Father, 3 Hail Marys in Our Father, and the crucifix. But I do have to say this. You clearly don't have to do this, but you must be somewhat religious inclined if you're interested in making rosaries. So I will have to say handmade rosary, I think, has to come with a little bit of prayer, if you know what I'm saying. So if I am making this rosary for someone, I pray for them while I make it, as much as I can. In the meantime, telling my kids to get out of the cabinet or whatever I need to do. But I'm going to put my crucifix on backwards, because when I bead them at the end, you'll see the beads kind of flip forward, but then the crucifix is backwards. Mom, so I string it with Jesus pointing down. Yes, honey. Can I help you in just a minute, please? Sure. Thank you. Thank you. So, Our Father, 3 Hail Marys, and a crucifix. Now I'm going to go for my 5 decades. 5 pearls, a fancy bead, 5 pearls, fancy bead, etc. So when I pray, you of course pray however the hey you want for anybody you want, but I pray for if they're married, their marriage, their family, their vocations, for the intentions of their heart, and that our Blessed Mother brings them closer to Jesus through this rosary. So that's normally kind of my prayers when I'm making a rosary for someone. When I am just making a rosary without someone in mind, for just the entertainment fact of it or to work with some colors, I just pray that whoever receives this rosary, that they're drawn closer to Jesus. They may not be Catholic, they could maybe give 2 hoots about our dear Blessed Mother, but that they just grow closer to Jesus and feel His love. So, anyways, you guys do what you want, but that's what I do. So far I have a tail. Honestly, I'll pause in just a minute, please, okay? A tail and a decade. And if someone knows what that part of the rosary is called, please tell me. Clearly, I'm a convert. I don't mean to be offending anybody. I just call it a tail. I want to get another decade on here before I stop. But maybe I won't. I will pause this and string this all up for you and then get my crochet hook and we'll start crocheting. Okay, so I have strung up all the beads of my rosary, the tail, the 5 decades, and I'm still hanging here on my thread ball. Take my needle off, poke it somewhere, and then here are a few crochet hooks. So as I was talking about, I've made very few crochet projects, but when I started using these tiny hooks, it felt so crazy. So you might want to work your way down, or start with whatever you want. So my first couple of rosaries I used a 2.5 millimeter, and it was really kind of tiny, but it worked. And then I started going down to 2.0 just because I actually lost the 2.5 for a while. It was under the couch or something, or maybe my kid hit it. And then I ended up trying to use the 1.75, which, once again, probably my kid took my crochet hook and I couldn't find it. But I find the tinier hook I use, the more of a braid or a tight braid it is between the beads, where the bigger the crochet hook, clearly the looser it is. But I think it's really a minor difference, so you can play around with that. Now, I have no idea what this is called, what I'm doing, or how to say I'm doing it. My sister just taught me how to do this. So you start with this loop thing. Summer, you can go ahead and add in the comments what that's called if you want. But I do a loop thing. And oh man, I forgot to add my Hail Mary, or my Blessed Mother. So I just start on one of the sides. It doesn't really matter which. I should have done that with the needle. So there we go. You got your middle pendant. I like the one that has 3 little loops on the top. Or I'm sorry, 2 on the top and 1 on the bottom. So I start at one side. I crochet, I'm just going to wait a second. I can't think and talk at once. Okay, so I got my little loop up here. I got a long enough tail for me to weave it in. I'm looking at our Blessed Mother right now, so you got something on the back there, the Blessed Medal. Miraculous Medal, I think it's called. There's a saint in the story of that, I'm sure. I'm going to do 1 chain stitch to lock it in place, and then I'm going to do 3 chains up. I'm going to do 3 chains up for this piece right here. So I just have 1 to lock it in place. I'd explain a chain stitch, ladies or gentlemen, but I am sure you do those all the time. So I don't even know how to explain it. I guess I go around and through 1, around and through 2, around and through 3. So I got nice little start there. And then I'm going to bring up one pearl, lock it in place with a chain, and then I'm going to chain 2. Gosh, my kids are fighting right now. Chain 1, chain 2. And I'm going to pause this video and deal with that.
Mommy.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Sometimes you just have to stop, right? Okay, so we only have one bead so far. We're going to bring up a bead, a pearl. I'm going to lock it in place with a little bit of a tug and chain 2. 1, 2. Bring up a bead, chain it in place. Yikes, I lost that one. I hope you're seeing this okay, guys. But as I know, you guys are chaining experts. So chain 1, chain 2. Okay. Now I'm just going to go through this first decade with you so don't get too bored. Lock in place, chain 1, chain 2. Bring up a bead. Lock into place, chain 1, chain 2. Bring up a bead, lock in place, chain 1, chain 2. In regard to the chains in between the beads, you guys can decide, of course, how many you want in there. I find that 2 is a good number for my fingers. If I was making this for a guy, maybe I would put 3 in between there to give it a little more space for their fingers. That is, of course, all preference. I also really like to use a bigger bead for the Our Father beads. I think I said that a few times because if I'm praying with my eyes closed, I like to feel the difference of the bead in case I've lost track, obviously, of the 10 Hail Marys. So I like to feel a difference between the beads. Some people maybe would do all white beads and then the same bead but a different color for the Our Fathers. That's obviously appropriate. Do whatever the hey you want. But I do like the different size beads for that. So here I'm at my last bead before my Our Father bead. And you can also decide here. I've done 3 chains before and after the Our Father, and I've done 4 chains after the Our Father. I think if you do more than that, it just starts looking a little lengthy. This right here is 3, so 2 chains in between the pearl, and then it's 3 chains on either side of the Our Father. I think this one I'm going to do 4, and then here I still do lock it into place. I do 3 chains. When I end it, I do 3 chains, but then hooking it into this hole kind of makes it 4. So I don't know. I think I'm giving you too much information. But I just brought up this last bead in the decade. I locked it in place, and now I'm going to do 4 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's kind of nice to do all 4 in a row after only doing 2. And here's the other thing I've learned. I bring up my loop as tall as my bead. You see how I kind of just adjust that a little bit? Otherwise, it sticks out kind of funny. I'm sure you guys would have done that naturally, but it took me maybe 10, 15 rosaries before I figured that. So I pulled up my little loop to get my Our Father in there, and I'm going to do 4 more chains. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you see there's a big enough difference. And once again, if people are actually, I'm going to bring up my bead and do 2 chains. If people are actually praying with this, or you can actually, do some of those preferences. If you just use your rosary to hold it and you don't really use it to count your prayers or anything like that, maybe you could care less. But, yeah, 1, 2. So I'm going to go ahead and finish off all this beading so you'll see what it looks like, and then we'll connect it to Mary on the other side, and then we will chain we will crochet the tail and attach that. I wonder if you're impressed how fast I'm crocheting this summer. This is the fastest I've ever done. Okay, so I'll pause and be back. Okay, so I have one bead left in this decade, but you'll see I started with our Blessed Mother, a decade our Father, a decade our Father, a decade our Father, a decade our Father. So I'm on my 5th. There's prayers in between there, but that's a different story. I was just naming my beads. So I did 2 chains. I'm bringing up a bead. I'm locking it in place and chaining 2. I'm going to chain 3 now and pull my loop a little bit farther out. I'm going to clip, giving me enough of a tail to tie my knots and weave it in. I don't know if you guys put the thread in your mouth, but I do. And sometimes if I can't get my thread through my needle, I say a little prayer. Jesus, if you want me to make this rosary here, get this thread through the needle. Most of the time it works. So I guess I have to keep making rosaries. So I'm laying this out in an oval so all my beads lay nice and straight. Let's move that over. You see my loop barely sticking up in the air. I'm going to poke our needle through the other side of our Blessed Mother. Pull it through. So it's kind of like I've got a chain stitch in here to lock it, kind of. And then I'm going to just hold my first 2 beads, or my first and last beads, between my fingers, because I want them to be lined up as even as I can. Because though it's homemade, when you lay it out, you're going to want your Our Father beads to be pretty close to horizontal from each other. Otherwise it will look like there's an extra bead in a decade or something. It'll just look off. That happens to me sometimes, even if there's the right number of beads, but is what it is. So I hold my first beads together, kind of give a tug. I try to go
Mommy, I keep cowboys up.
in and 1 second, Olivia. I go in and out of this. Yeah, can you wait a minute, please, sugar? Can I help you when I'm done?
Actually, I can.
Please, Olivia.
I can put it in the
Okay, so that's not working out for me. So I'm gonna go through the hole. I'm gonna insert the needle through the hole and try to get it through this thread piece as well. Now, here's the deal. I just go in and out about 3 times or tie knots. You don't want to do too many though. I did that at first, and it starts looking really bulky and knotty, and that's no good. It kind of looks sloppy, and that's how my first 20-some rosaries look like, and I already gave them away, so sorry everybody. But I find going in and out about 2 or 3 times is enough, and then sometimes I even slide my needle under the parts that went in and out, kind of to tighten it up, I guess. Then I'm just going to weave my end through this chain piece. Now, I think I remember someone in the comments saying they make rosaries. So if perhaps you do it this way and you have any tips or help, please let me know. I don't know if this is the best way to do it, because after this I'm going to show you that I clip it, and I actually use clear Elmer's glue.
Put peanut butter on,
Yes,
please.
Olivia, when I am done, I will peanut butter your English muffin. Okay. So I'm going up to the purl, and then I got this tail. I'm going to quick go over here, and I'm going to work this side in. So yes, all I'm doing is securing it in this hole. I'm not going in too many times because I don't want it to look bulky or chunky. And then I weave it up the chain. So it looks pretty good. I mean, most people are pretty gentle with their rosaries, right? They're not like swinging them around or pulling them. I suppose kids do, but you know. Okay. Pulling it all the way through, pulling it a little taut. So we have this part so far. And I'm going to show you clipping here in just a second. I'm going to do them all at once. I still have the tail to do, which would be this piece. So I'm going to do this loop-de-doop-de piece here. My sister will have a great name for that, I'm sure. Now, you'll see in a second why I do this backwards for you guys, which you'll get to look at our Jesus here. Your English muffin's up, Olivia. I'm going to do, okay, I will. I forgot. I said I was going to do the peanut butter. So chain to secure Jesus in place. I'm going to chain 3, 2, 3, bring up an Our Father bead. I'm going to pull my little loop, remember, to about the height of the bead so it lays nicely. Then I'm going to secure it. In a minute, sugar. You see, if I would have put, well, I'm going to do a few more before I say that. So I'm going to chain 3 because I'm on, actually I'm going to chain, 3. 1, 2, gosh, that's not working for me. 1, 2, 3, because I'm on either side of my Our Father bead. So if you decided 3 or 4, bring up a pearl, secure it, chain 2, pull up a pearl, secure it, chain 2, pull up a bead, secure it. Now I'm going to chain 3 because I'm approaching an Our Father bead. 1, 2, 3. Bring up the Our Father bead. So I'm going to pull up my little loop to be the height of my bead so it doesn't look funky. And then you see right here, this is all hanging very nicely facing you. If I would have put my crucifix on the right way or facing up, then these would kind of all look backwards. You could have twisted them in place, but now I just put my crucifix on when I bead my whole string on upside down or backwards, and that solved that problem for me. Once again, like 20 rosaries into this business. So I'm gonna get this taut. And I'm going to chain up 3. 1, 2, 3. Get my little loop so I don't lose my thread. Cut a good enough tail to work with. Man, I'm using the word tail a lot. Look at that. Okay. So, I've got a loop. And I've got my string, my needle. I'm going to put, looking at Mary's feet, under her feet, which she's supposed to be standing on the moon, and the moon is supposed to reflect the sun, S-U-N, but you can look at it as Mary reflects the sun, S-O-N, meaning Jesus Christ, the Son. I always thought that was interesting. Anyways, there's no moon on this Mary pendant, but when you see Mary standing on a moon, that is why, because she reflects the sun, and in real life, the moon reflects the sun, S-U-N. Okay. So I got this hanging. I'm going to go through my ring or circle hanging off of my Mary. I'm going to do that, what did I say, 2 or 3 times. Not too many, otherwise it looks bulky, which I don't know if any of my friends will subscribe to Summer. They should, but I'm not on Facebook to promote it. Anyways, and they're going to look at their rosary and they're going to say, wow, I've got a chunky spot. Okay, bear with me just a second, because after I pull this through, I'm going to show you my clipping and gluing. So I'm just weaving my end in, just as if you were making a blanket or cardigan, right, Summer? Meanwhile, my daughter's English muffin is getting very cold, and the peanut butter is not going to get melty. But I am doing something for my sister, so that's important too. Okay, so you go in and out, you pull through. So I've got these 2 threads up top, this one here. This one I'll thread in later because it's not worth it doing it right now on camera. Now, I have not found them, but my mom used to have a pair of scissors, a needle nose scissors. I believe it looked like a pelican, if I recall correctly. And I would really like those right now. I need a pair of scissors good for this. So I'm going to cut as close to the rosary without cutting it, which I've cut a few, let me tell you. And then I'm using clear Elmer's glue because actually my kids had it out on the table because they were gluing noodles on a piece of paper, because that's what I do when I think they're bored. And so I'm sure there's a better glue I could be using. If anybody has a suggestion, please let me know, though I don't want to spend a lot of money because, once again, I give these rosaries away. So anyways, I put a little glue, and then, this is really technical here, I slightly roll it between my fingers, trying to get the glue or tail to attach in there. Now, another problem this kind of ends up being is sometimes this part of the rosary gets a little crunchy. So after it's all dried, I kind of try to roll it again between my fingers. If I was using a different glue, maybe that wouldn't happen, or maybe it still would. But nobody is really holding on to this part of the rosary when they're praying, they're touching the beads, so I'm trying not to worry so much about it. So I did these 2, and I would need to cut and glue this piece, and then I would still need to thread in the tail, and when I do that, it would, whoa, let's get our Mary, it would look like this. So I think my sister is setting me up with a Gmail account about rosaries, and you guys can email me questions, or if you need help, or if you want one. Yeah. So thank you for subscribing to Summer's Tips and Stitches. And that's my rosary making.